Coming up, you don't want to miss this, folks. Part one of an amazing interview with our good friend Gerald Celente from the Trends Research Institute. Part one of a two-part interview where we talk about what's really happening in our economy, with politics, the world. He tells it like it is, folks. He tells it like it is. We'll tell you how to get there at trendsresearch.com. Our show, of course, around the world on radio stations and the internet, AmericanSceneRadio.com. We'll be right back, hour two.
Steve Crowley's American Scene.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Steve Crowley's American Scene. The opinions expressed on the preceding program were strictly those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and not those of the station, its staff, management, or its sponsors. This is Steve Crowley's American Scene, coming to you live, coast to coast and border to border, with a close look at what's new in our world today and how the news impacts you, your money, and your health. Steve wants to hear from you toll-free at 1-800-820-7185 for Steve Crowley's American Scene.
Steve Crowley's American Scene.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to hour number two of the American Scene program. Very exciting to talk about the things we're going to talk about with Gerald Celente in just a few minutes. Part one of a two-part interview from the Trends Research Institute just north of New York City. Gerald's been a friend of mine for more than 25 years. He's been a guest on Oprah many times, and of course CNN, ABC. He's the guy that tells us what's going to be happening in the months ahead. Also, Bill Clough will be here from CY Global. Rocky Emery will be here from American Patriot Gold, and Robert Miller from Abacan. It all begins right now with part one. Gerald Celente.
Steve Crowley's American Scene.
Well, I've known Gerald Celente, folks, for more than 25 years. We're doing two major segments with him. It's all about the Trends Journal and the Trends Research Institute up just north of New York City. They've been forecasting worldwide since 1980. Wow. And their original newsletter morphed into a nice magazine now. This is like 44 pages long with illustrations and stuff. So you want to subscribe to this. This is just a marvelous way to figure out what's really going on today. More importantly, where we're going to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Gerald, welcome back.
Oh, thanks for having me, Steve.
I mean, that's the essence of what you do, predicting our futures, right?
Well, we can't predict it, but we can show you the face of it pretty clearly, and so that you can see where the future is heading, so you get there before it happens, rather than, not seeing the opportunities and getting knocked out by the dangers.
Well, I always love when you give us advice, especially for the younger people, on how they should angle their lives, because a lot of what you do ends up in some kind of micro advice for folks. So I'm going to save some of that for part two and kind of talk about your spring issue here. You've got a controversial cover showing a lot of people getting on a train. You say it's the next train to Auschwitz, all aboard, kiss those calories goodbye. And I want to paint a picture for our listeners as to what this picture looks like. First of all, most of the people and their various ethnic backgrounds, they look like they're black, white, Hispanic. They're all fat. They're all very fat. One guy's holding a boom box and his pants are falling down. One guy's got a hat. I love Bieber. I guess Justin Bieber is in there. So what's your main message here with these folks?
Well, there's the Kardashians and the World Wrestling Federation.
Right.
What's happening? Oh, by the way, Anthony Frida, our illustrator, just won a huge national award for his illustrations in the Trends Journal.
Oh, great.
Yes.
They're beautiful.
Yep. And it's also, of course, advertising free, so it's just information and nobody's spinning it. It's only the way we see it. And what the message is this: we're losing our rights day by day, week by week.
Right.
And we make the analogy to Auschwitz because one of our office managers, the office manager at the Trends Journal, she's German, and she's in her late 40s, and she told me the story of how one day she confronted her grandmother and said, "How could you have just sat by? How come nobody did anything as they were taking the Jews away?"
Right.
And her grandmother said to her, "Inez, you don't understand. We didn't lose our rights in one day. They were taken away from us day by day, week by week, year by year, until we became afraid to speak out. Because if we did, then we'd be taken away as well."
Yes.
And that's what's happening in America, and people don't want to see it. They see it, and they know it. They know it when they get on an airplane. They know it when they get on the bus. They know when their buses are stopped going into the Lincoln Tunnel. They know it when they go into Grand Central Station and see these guys in camouflage with AK-47s all around them. They know it when the Supreme Court passes a ruling that if you get arrested and you get taken into jail, bend over and spread your legs. You could get strip searched. You don't have to be guilty or accused of anything, only that you were put in jail. And that's good enough. The Supreme Court ruled that you can be strip searched. People know about the National Defense Authorization Act signed by Obama on New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. Oh, don't they? Oh, nobody was watching? Where the military could come and take a guy like me because they don't like what I have to say, call me a belligerent to the state, claim that I have ties to organizations that they don't like. The military could take me away, Steve, without any charges, without any lawyer, without any judge, without any trial, without anything. And you could never hear from me again. That's right here in the good old USA. Oh, and the people don't know, of course, they repealed the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. What's a Posse Comitatus? Well, that prevented the military from taking over police duties. Now they can. So what we're doing is we're losing our rights. I could continue to go on, but that gives you the broad picture of what the picture is about. And here is a disturbing trend. That picture was so disturbing, I was asked to do a speech for the Rotary International at their regional meeting here in Poughkeepsie, New York, not far from Kingston.
Right.
I brought with me Trends Journals for everybody.
Okay.
They took them all away and put them back in the boxes because the cover offended people.
Really?
Yes. Freedom of speech, and I hear about the Rotary talking about one of the things that they promote is peace. As you well know from the work that we do, no one promotes peace more than we do. That's what this Trends Journal is about. It's about a peaceful and prosperous future. But it's disturbing to anyone to see the facts and hear them when they hit them hard. They don't want to see it. Again, it's about why the Germans, this grand society, let their country be destroyed by a two-bit freak because the people didn't stand up, speak out, and take action before it was too late. And the too late is coming.
Have you heard about the new Bloomburger in New York? It's a tiny little burger with no condiments and a very small drink.
Yes.
That's what they're talking about.
I know. And also, let's talk about this one.
Yeah.
How many people did the New York City police stop and frisk last year?
How many?
630,000.
Really?
630,000 people stopped and frisked. All aboard, next train to Auschwitz.
90% of them black.
And Hispanic, but also that number is misleading as well. I know a lot of young guys, and they go to the clubs afterwards, and they're hanging out, so they figure, these guys may have some marijuana on them.
Oh, I see.
And they're breaking down everybody. By the way, this is all part of the prison industrial complex that I wrote about in Trends 2000 in 1996.
Well, they're not taking away our rights in San Francisco, Gerald. You can walk around naked now.
That's right.
That's going the other way. But when you talk about, being taken away by the police, I mean, getting on an airplane, if you say the wrong thing, make the wrong comment, you can be taken away and strip searched.
And you see, this is the hypocrisy of it. There's a woman doing time in Rikers Island now. She's there for a couple of months. She's an alleged madam of a house of prostitution.
All right.
It was a victimless crime. She's in there for 2 months. They posted a bail like $3 or $4 million.
Really?
Yeah, she's a mother of 4. I mean, whether or not you agree with prostitution, come on, isn't this a little cruel and unusual punishment when you have the bankers of this country that have brought down the financial system, including John Corzine, the guy who ran MF Global, that can't find $1.6 billion. Part of that money, of course, was mine, coming from my segregated accounts, not even being charged with anything. You haven't seen one head roll on Wall Street. And this is what they do in countries that are breaking down. Punishment for the fullest for the minor violations, and a free ride if you're a crime boss at the top.
What about our Attorney General making a fool of himself, huh?
Well, that's what Attorney Generals do. I mean, let's go back and look at the whole list of them. Who was that guy under Bush that used to play the piano? He was a real trip. Ashford, what was his name from St. Louis?
I can't think of his name.
Oh,
I know
yeah,
what you mean,
know
though.
exactly who he looks like. And he was, during 9/11, taking away our rights.
Right. That's right. Exactly. Well, they don't seem to adhere to the rules, do they?
No, they make them up. And it's not only in the United States. Let's look what's going on in the markets as we're speaking over in Europe. As the Spanish debt crisis followed the Greece debt crisis, that followed the Irish debt crisis, that followed the Portuguese debt crisis, and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
They're not supposed to bail out banks, bail out countries or bail out banks. It's against the European Monetary Union Charter. But hey, what's a charter among friends? Let's break the rules. You need 125 billion euros to bail out your buddies in the banks that made bad bets. Of course you could have it. You're my pal. Oh, and by the way, that's not going to work. Let's pretend. Let's make up a new one. Let's make up a euro bond. Yeah, that sounds nice. We'll take everybody's garbage from all these countries that nobody wants to buy bonds from, and we'll put it in a pool. But that's against the European Monetary Union Charter.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? These rules are only made for other people. The word justice, Steve, is being misspelled. It's Justus. Just us, not them.
That's right. We're talking to Gerald Celente, folks, and you want to go to his website. We're going to tell you all about how to do that. But this is from the Trends Research Institute, been around for a long time now, since 1980. And you can go to their website, trendsresearch.com, trendsresearch.com, and learn all about the Trends Journal. It's a marvelous, marvelous publication. Put your money where your mind is and learn about what's really going on in our society today and around the world. And, we just had the global analyst on, Adrian Day. He's been a friend of ours for years, a great pundit, a great money manager. And he said, I worry, Steve, I worry at night that things here in the USA have gone too far down and they can't come back. And
I worry too.
Yeah.
And as you well know, I was looking for another place to live, because I see society breaking down. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I was in Berlin, and I was really struck by this beautiful, grand city that must have, in my eyes,
Everybody says that about Berlin.
Oh, it must have been more. It was grander to me, and you've been in Paris. Than Paris. Wide sidewalks, cafes everywhere, private shops everywhere, beautiful boulevards, no buildings taller than 8 or 10 stories, light shining in everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you see all the new construction of everything that was bombed out. And you say, how could the people, the Germans, they had to be at the top of Western civilization in the 1930s. I mean, look at the people of German history, from Bach to Beethoven to Goethe to Einstein and Wagner. I mean, these are the Germans. How could they let their country be destroyed? How could the people not rise and have the courage, dignity, respect, and integrity to let someone else destroy their lives? And I came back to America, and I said, I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to let two-bit freaks destroy my life. And I bought the most historic building on the most historic corner, the 1750s Franz Roggen, Franzroggen, the Franz Roggen House.
Okay.
And I said to myself, I had no intention of doing this. I'm not a rich guy. I work for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm buying this house, this beautiful house that has so much of American history. This is where the first American Revolution began. I want to see the second American Revolution, but not one of bombs and bullets, but of heart and mind. So to follow up on what your guest said, is it too late? I don't believe so. Not if we rise to a higher level. If we have the integrity and courage and respect within ourselves to see what's going on and to say, no, you can't, not doing this to me. And I believe we could have that kind of revolution. There are a lot of people in this country that care, and I believe that we can have a brighter future if we bring back the greatness of the past of America and retrofit it for the 21st century.
Well, that's great hope, and a lot of facts coming out of the Trends Research Institute, folks. And, of course, one of the things that scares me, as we'll talk a little bit about at the top of segment 2 here coming up tomorrow, we are overspending by the tune of $125 billion a month. That just was found out about the month of May. That's more than $4 billion a day. Not what we spend, what we're negative spending. overspending. Not a good situation, folks. Go to trendsresearch.com. Gerald Celente will be back with us tomorrow. He started this all many years ago. He is the great trends researcher. He's even been on Oprah, right, Jerry?
Oh, a number of times.
A number of times, yeah. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll be right back on the American Scene.